Sounds great.
You know me.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the introduction. My name is Bryan Dosono. I'm a senior here at the University of Washington, pursuing an honors Bachelor of Science in Informatics with a concentration in human-computer interaction. I'm a proud student of the Information School, and I'm a proud Ellis Civic Fellow. Today, my presentation will be more about my work, not only through my journey at the University of Washington and at the Seattle community at large, but also on my Capstone project as an Ellis Civic Fellow. So this presentation will be divided into two parts. The first part will be more about my self-discovery in my passion for technology, and the second part again will be more about the Capstone project. So I was born in the Yakima Reservation. I come from Wapato, Washington, which is a really small town. There's about 5,000 people. But in my own hometown, I really noticed that there was a lack of resources available for the general public. More specifically, information technology resources for whenever people want to access their information, or for whenever students want to, use a device or computer to work on their homework. There really aren't that many resources available where I was from. In fact, to this very day, my hometown's public library only has 5 computers that's supposed to be used by a town of 5,000 people. And that's comparable to having 40,000 computers here at the Odegaard Library for a student body of 40,000. And it wasn't even until I came to Seattle at the University of Washington to pursue my undergraduate studies that I even noticed this kind of divide that existed between the two cities. And it was this digital divide that really pushed me and drove me into action to do something, to do something about this. So when I came here at the University of Washington, I heard about the Ellis Civic Fellowship Program through a departmental listserv email, and I immediately took upon the opportunity to see what it was about. I went through the interview process, filled out the application, and I was really fortunate to have been selected as a recipient of the Ellis Civic Fellowship. Through this great framework that this fellowship provides, I was really able to cater and design my service work throughout the next 4 years. For my freshman year, I volunteered as an administrative intern at the International Rescue Committee, where I helped ease and transition the lives of immigrant and refugee families from various countries abroad to their newfound home here in Seattle. And I remember this one time I was helping this one family who was able to access a computer. I was helping them install it in their new home. They've never been able to turn on a computer before, so helping them throughout the entire process and watching them themselves press the on button for the very first time, seeing this glimmer in their eyes, something that they've never seen before, having this new technology, this new device in their very home, and having them feel like they own this piece of technology was really empowering. And it was really this kind of moment, this aha moment, that made me realize that all families should be able to have the opportunity to own their own technological devices, their own machines, for them to really participate in this 21st century. So with that moment in mind, it really proceeded me to move forward and to explore more in terms of computer hardware. So I found out about Interconnection through online searching and as well as mentorship and guidance from the Carlson Center staff. And I was able to serve as a computer hardware specialist at Interconnection, where I disassembled computers with my bare hands, computers that were donated from different companies and different families around Seattle who no longer needed their computers because they purchased a new one to replace it. Well, these old donated computers are shipped to Interconnection, where volunteers like me help break them apart and refurbish them back together to deliver them to families abroad or to even local families who qualify for low-income, free-reduced lunch, and those kind of families around Seattle. And through this experience, I realized that it was really important for me to create opportunities for these kind of families, and technology was a perfect vehicle to create these kind of opportunities and to share these opportunities worldwide. My junior year, I was able to serve as a welcome desk volunteer at the downtown branch of the Seattle Public Library, where I connected patrons from all walks of life to their information needs. This ranged anywhere from helping a 9-year-old find a story time book to a college student trying to find more information about auto mechanics, or even a 70-year-old senior trying to just navigate his way through downtown Seattle with a map in his hands. So you get a wide range of patrons, and they're all looking to have better assistance to help them access information to get to their day-to-day lives, information for their hobbies, just information in general. And information through this service site was really the most valuable asset for all patrons. And through my work with the first two nonprofits, my freshman and sophomore year, and then more leaning towards government agencies and government services like the public library, I really found this yearning to really explore more of the government sector. And I found out about the YMCA Get Engaged program through the different kind of courses I've taken here as an Ellis Civic Fellow, especially this community-based. I remember taking the community-based learning course and having one of our guest speakers come in who was also a board fellow. So being able to establish these kind of connections through the courses I've taken as an Ellis Civic Fellow has really helped me learn more about the opportunities that are available in Seattle in terms of civic participation and governance. And having explored the different opportunities that were available through the YMCA and through the Get Engaged program, I found that the Citizens Telecommunications and Technology Advisory Board was a perfect fit for me. And I applied, and I was later appointed by the City Council to serve on the board. And through this capacity, I've been able to make policy and recommendations not only for the mayor but also for Seattle City Council in terms of guiding the digital future for the city. I was also able to share my experiences as an Ellis Civic Fellow through the spring celebration of service and leadership recently. And also I've been able to serve as a teaching assistant for a digital storytelling class last year. And it's these kind of really experiential learning opportunities that really provide another venue outside of the classroom to give back not only to students but also to the community at large. And this summer, due to my work with information and technology, I was able to also find another these kind of amazing opportunities offered through the iSchool. So I'm also being able to expand my curriculum with the iSchool as well.
We all think that's cool.
So as I've been learning not only through the community but also through the classroom, I've been able to apply everything that I've learned and synthesize the kind of coursework and synthesize the kind of information and the kind of policies. And I've been able to apply it to my Ellis Civic Fellow Capstone project. And through this project, I've been able to author the City of Seattle's first ever Municipal Digital Inclusion Strategic Plan. But before I get too heavy into the Capstone project, I'll first define a couple of key terms. So digital inclusion is a positive response to closing the digital divide. And what I mean by digital divide is that there are often different communities of color or vulnerable populations that don't really have access to a computer or to any other device that allows them to apply for jobs, apply for colleges, because in the 21st century economy, you could only find out and apply to these opportunities online. So by having them not have access to online information, they're really at a disadvantage. So digital inclusion really helps level the playing field of opportunity for these low income, for these vulnerable populations. And it also addresses equity for residences, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. And the impetus for doing this not only was for the framework of the Ellis Civic Fellowship Capstone project, but it was also because the City of Seattle has yet to devise its very own digital inclusion plan. There's comparable progressive cities like Chicago, San Francisco, Philadelphia that already have the digital inclusion plans in place. But Seattle, being the leader or the hub of technology for the Pacific Northwest, it's surprising that Seattle has yet to devise its own. So I've been working really closely with the Community Technology Department at the City of Seattle to present a digital inclusion plan to the mayor and city council that will help them realize where the city should be in terms of its IT infrastructure 5, 10, 20 years down the line. And we hope that this plan will help align initiatives between different city departments, identify linkages between city departments, and help really ultimately promote the goal of digital inclusion. Fundamentally, one of the research question that I've been exploring with this project was, where and what are the gaps of the City of Seattle's current digital inclusion strategy, and how can developing a municipal action plan address these gaps? My methodology was to first conduct an exhaustive literature review. I was able to get a lot of data from the Seattle IT Indicators Project, and through this Indicators Project, it was a phone survey that was administered to 1,000 Seattle residents, just asking them basic fundamental questions about their technology access. Do you have a phone? Do you have a computer in your own house? So a lot of the data I was able to get was from this IT Indicators Project, which occurred in 2009, and they release a new one every 4 years, so the 2013 one is coming up soon. I was also able to reference a national broadband plan in terms of best practices for adoption and deployment of broadband, and I was able to really learn a lot more about digital inclusion through the TASHA framework. And TASHA is a technology, action, and social change group here at the University of Washington Information School, and I was able to really focus and apply the lens of this digital inclusion plan through the framework principles that the TASHA plan offered in terms of building a digital inclusive community. I was also able to conduct interviews with different city officials, including I've conducted over 10 interviews with different city departments, but the 5 I'll briefly touch about in this presentation will be with the Department of Information Technology, Department of Neighborhoods, the Human Services Department, the Office of Economic Development, and the Seattle Office of Civil Rights. So just really briefly, for the Department of Information Technology, I was able to interview their community technology staff, and one of the biggest challenges that they're having is the city, although it funds digital literacy programs for the public, oftentimes they have a great turnout for these literacy programs for people who are taking the basic level of computer literacy. But when it comes to taking courses that teach intermediate or advanced courses, there's a steep drop-off. In terms of attendance. So the city is trying to come up with ways to maybe market their digital literacy programs more effectively, and to really stress the importance of continuing digital literacy beyond basic fundamentals of just having an email address or just using a word processor, but really going above what they already know, for them to get a more wide array of skills. So with the Department of Neighborhoods, I was also able to interview their business development director, and they really weren't. They were the most cynical department when it came to developing a digital inclusion plan, because they felt that communicating and interacting with the public electronically, they didn't think that created the ideal relationship and trust for citizens to engage with their public. They felt that there needed to be a healthy balance between digital and interpersonal approaches for communication and for civic engagement and participation. With the interview for the Human Services Department, some of the challenges that they're facing is just really finding translators who speak the appropriate language at the family centers that they fund throughout Seattle. And this department also oversees the Mayor's Office for Senior Citizens. And another challenge that these people find are that many senior citizens are homebound, because leaving their home to access a senior center or a public library is a challenge for them. Oftentimes, leaving their home is a challenge because of maybe they have a disability, or maybe they just don't know when the next transit or the next bus is available for them. So just coming up with some recommendations to address these kind of challenges are really important. For the Office of Economic Development, I was able to interview their deputy director, and one of the biggest conversation starters was first, what's the difference between Wi-Fi and broadband, and why has the city really invested in broadband? Well, with talking with their deputy director, the city of Seattle has recently cut off their Wi-Fi services, or they're planning to cut off or discontinue their services, in the U District and elsewhere, because they're going more towards a fiber to the premise approach. They believe that fiber is the most reliable way to deliver broadband and online services, and Wi-Fi that's generally available to the public is oftentimes used by for-profit companies, by different businesses, when it really should be more focused towards the public and delivering a public good, a public utility. So in terms of broadband and fiber, the city of Seattle has more than 500 miles of fiber that's already paid for, but it has yet to be used. So this is called dark fiber. And with my conversations with the deputy director, an ordinance really needs to be written to lease excess fiber with companies to better offer services for nearby neighborhoods who have poor qualities of service. And through my interviews with the deputy director, I've been really able to learn more about how broadband services like Comcast and CenturyLink play a role in this discussion. With the Seattle Office for Civil Rights, one of the biggest things that they wanted to see in this digital inclusion plan was in alignment with the Race and Social Justice Initiative. This department doesn't really focus on the funding or programming in the digital inclusion, but they do work closely with elected officials like Council Member Bruce Harrell, who advocates for technology in underserved and underprivileged populations. Recently, he introduced, the Great Student Initiative, which allowed, Seattle public schools to partner with technology-oriented companies for them to increase the skill set, the technological skill set for their students. So it's these kind of partnerships that is really important for addressing this kind of digital inclusion plan. So earlier I mentioned the TASHA framework, and these were the 13 strategic areas that the framework currently uses in terms of addressing what's really important and what's really relevant in digital inclusion plan. These areas address availability, affordability, design for inclusion for citizens who are disabled. So these are the 13 areas that the strategic plan that we're currently working on will have an emphasis, and will have different department-specific recommendations to move forward. So this digital inclusion plan is still just was meant to present to you as a snapshot of the progress that's currently on. It's a work in progress. This month I'm still working on interviewing more different city departments to find out what they think is really important and what should be included in a municipal digital inclusion plan. In June, I hope to work closely with my community mentor to focus on cataloging department-specific recommendations and best practices for promoting digital inclusion within the different areas and different staff and different departments within the city of Seattle. Because oftentimes you have departments like community technology or department neighborhoods who promote digital inclusion in different ways, but they're not really cognizant of how they promote digital inclusion. And perhaps this digital inclusion plan will help them better address their gaps and better address their commonalities in terms of moving forward for the kind of digital inclusion projects that they promote. I also hope to garner input from the board that I'm sitting on currently, and in terms of not only who should we interview next, but also how do we gauge public input into this plan to make sure we address as many vulnerable populations as possible. So these are just the next steps moving forward. In terms of just going over the past 4 years, it's been an incredible ride, and the biggest takeaway that I've learned is that you're never really too young to address a social justice issue that you care about. I have never imagined myself, coming from a Yakima reservation to a huge metropolis like Seattle, being able to play a huge part in really shaping the digital future for the city. It's been a really humbling experience, and the framework that's offered through the Ellis Civic Fellowship Program has really guided me there. And I am very excited for what comes next. One of my life's ambitions at the moment is to really become appointed as the next Chief Information Officer for the United States of America. And hopefully with this position, I'm able to play a larger role in influencing the information architecture and information infrastructure that the nation offers, so that cities and reservations, like where I come from, offer technology and opportunities for families and communities in need. With that said, I'd just like to quickly acknowledge the following people. My faculty mentor, Dr. Ricardo Gomez, my community mentor, David Keys, the Carlson Center staff, Matt, Catherine, Rachel, Michael Ann, and as well as the literature that I've cited. Feel free to contact me afterwards for more information about the TASHA framework or the National Broadband Plan. I'd be happy to reference you to those kind of documents. And if you're interested in following the development of the plan, feel free to follow me on Twitter at @Dosono or hashtag digital inclusion. Let's make this a trending topic. Thank you.
We have a few minutes for questions. Any questions that anyone might have for Bryan?
So you told us what the long-term plan is,
Yeah.
Chief Information Officer. What's the next step in getting there?
I hope to pursue a PhD program in a field related to technology policy or public administration with a technology focus.
There's a lot that I don't understand, but when you were talking about the broadband versus Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
how is having broadband making it easier access for people than Wi-Fi? Because broadband, don't you have to have that come into a house?
So I believe you mean fiber.
Fiber. Fiber for broadband?
Fiber, which would be able to deliver broadband services. The city actually commissioned a task force to investigate this question, whether the city should move forward with Wi-Fi or whether the city should move forward with fiber to the premise. And they just found that fiber was a more reliable, a more cost-effective method of delivering online information and access. Just because it's fiber to the home doesn't mean that it can be delivered wirelessly. If you deliver fiber to your home, you could deliver it with with a wireless router. So there's different different ways for people to access the internet. But in terms of Wi-Fi versus fiber, fiber is the option that the city's task force has best recommended.
Do you agree?
I do agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm with you.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
Hey Bryan, so I work part of Tasha and we work on
Yeah, I recognize you. I went to one of your Tasha talks.
Oh, awesome. So we just came out with like a, hey, how would your city attack this problem and build a digital inclusion framework how-to guide? I just wanted to know if you'd seen that yet because it might help you.
I have seen the report. The most recent report I've seen was when the Tasha framework had 11 principles. So that's the most comprehensive. I've read a majority of the very long document, but recently I found out that it has been advanced to 13 principles. So I'm still constantly looking. I'm looking at Tasha's site every week to see new updates.
There's a new guide that's put out by so the International County and City Management Association, ICMA. Put that out.
Yeah.
And there's a new, it might be a little bit more digestible and a little bit more practical. So it's taking that big framework and putting it into a kind of a how-to framework for cities. So
Okay.
check it out.
All right. I'll definitely talk to you after this.
Send it to you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Bryan, to see you present now, it's kind of intimidating, I think, for a lot of folks, especially we have some of our newer Ellis Fellows in the room, and it just looks like you have had this plan from day one, and all the pieces have fallen together perfectly, and having been there, I know that wasn't quite the case, that there were some bumps in the road, and some times when you were just kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do for my project or for my service role. I'm wondering if you could share just a little bit about a couple of the bumps and how they all came together so nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. So my freshman year, I guess one of the bumps was, my freshman year, it was a silver platter of opportunities. I remember touring the E-District with the tour that Matt gave, exploring the food bank, exploring the homeless shelter, the Roots homeless shelter, and just for me to find, where would be my first service site. I don't really know what I really want to do yet. I don't know anyone in the city at all. I just came here from a reservation. So what am I supposed to do? But I just figured constantly talking to the Carlson Center staff. These are the kind of people who really have connections to different community leaders, to different nonprofit directors around the entire state of Washington and beyond. And just paying close attention to the seminars that you are taking, making sure that you swap business cards. Some of the other bumps that I've been able to find on the road was just, aside from finding the service sites, which a lot were offered through the advisors and through Google searches, but it was also just sticking towards, is this really what I want to do? Why am I here? There were different times, like at the international rescue community, where I felt underappreciated, or I felt like my work really wasn't going towards anything. But you have to constantly tell yourself that you're doing this to learn more about the community. You're doing this to learn more about populations who are underserved. You're doing this as a huge learning experience. So I just recommend taking everything as much as you can, and even if it's not the right fit for you, like the International Rescue Committee didn't really do anything to make me learn more about digital inclusion, but it made me realize that humanitarian work really was not the best route for me. So even if you feel like it's not working for you at the moment, just take that and, for next time, learn that, I don't want to do this, but maybe I could explore this, if that makes any sense. So don't feel bad if you feel like nothing's working, or you feel like what you're doing is a waste of time. Just take it and really try to count the blessings that you have, and learn as much as you can from that service site, because you're only going to be there for a couple months or a year. You're not going to be there for the rest of your life.
What about when you first kind of launched into the digital inclusion piece?
So a lot of this is driven by my coursework at the iSchool. So if you find something that you're really passionate about in terms of academia, I recommend you to explore it further and see if there's a social justice issue side of it. A lot of times what I'm learning in the iSchool, it's very hard programming or coursework development, project management. So for me, I was rarely able to see the social or the human justice side of my coursework. So with this fellowship that you're taking, and with the seminars that you're taking, try to really analyze and critically think about the community impact that you can be making with your degree. With digital inclusion, that was one of the biggest disparities that was really talked about in one of my information ethics courses, and I just really wanted to explore it further. But it was because I was able to pay attention in class and then apply social justice spin to it that this project really came to be what it is right now.
Well, have a gift to give you. It's a book by Alan. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name. Kazee, who is the founder of City Year. I went to the bookstore and we talked about books, and I looked all around the bookstore, and I found a few books on the digital divide that I thought would make an obvious fit for you. But in reading this, well, I wrote a little something inside, so I'm just going to read it because it's somewhat short. In recognition of your excellent work and significant growth, there's a couple of lines from this book's cover that kept ringing out, resonating with your character in mind. The first, on the cover it says, "Pragmatic idealism, which has been clear about you from the beginning. Your feet have always been grounded solidly on the ground in a plan, but your eyes have been set on a vision high in the sky." The second resonates only after having come to know you a little better. To see what you've